Hey guys, let's talk about some Scentsy wax. This is going to be titled my club haul, but technically some of these fragrances have been taken out of my club and some are just kind of random fragrances that I threw into this haul. I've been sitting on these for quite a while, as per usual. Didn't really have time to get around to talking about them. Had some other things I wanted to film first. The good news is though, I've been able to spend a lot of time with some of these and I'm very familiar with how they perform and how they've done so far in my house. Let's go ahead and talk about the ones that I have that are not currently in my club. This one right here was one that I bought on clearance. I think it's still available on clearance. It was the last time I looked. And it's this one, A Joy and Wonder. And I actually got 2 bars of it. And just like I always do, I've labeled the side of the bar with the scent notes: red currant, black raspberry, and cinnamon stick. I actually really liked this one. It performed very well out in my open concept. Anytime I melt wax out in my open concept, meaning my living room and kitchen, I have 3 warmers that I use all at once. So I'll put 2 cubes in each warmer of the same fragrance normally. It did very well that way. This one kind of reminds me of a very rustic, woodsy, kind of lightly spiced cranberry. The notes are red currant and black raspberry with cinnamon stick. So I'm kind of surprised there's no woodsiness in this. At least there's not a woodsy note listed. If I were to just go off of what I thought I smelled just, in the air and on cold, I would actually consider this more like a tart cranberry, but they have currant here. I would even consider it maybe even a blackberry before a black raspberry, but still really nice. There's a really nice woodsy, rustic feel to this fragrance, along with that spice and the tart fruitiness. It's one of the rare fragrances from Scentsy so far that is probably not a repurchase. It's not a club fragrance by any means. It performed really well. I actually really like the scent, but I'm probably not gonna buy it again. Just one of those kind of one and done things that did really well for me. I feel like that kind of fragrance is gonna be a rarity, something that actually performed really well and that I really did enjoy, but I'm not going to be repurchasing it and I'm not going to end up putting it in my club. So one of the rare times that's probably going to end up happening. The next one here is one that I ended up taking out of my club. I haven't used it yet. It started out in my club, took it out. I might end up putting it back in. I don't know yet though. I haven't used it. It'll all come down to the performance of this one. It's Perfectly Wicked, the Hocus Pocus bar, Enchanted Blackberry, Black Plum, Forbidden Cherry, and Spiced Vanilla. And I actually really like this. I feel like it's very cherry forward. It's kind of a perfumey cherry a little bit. And there's a woodiness in the background there. There's no woodiness listed. It's almost kind of like a feminine woodiness. I've seen that several times so far with Scentsy. This one is really intriguing. I'm probably not gonna get around to melting this one until probably next fall. I could maybe even see myself doing this during the spring too. It's got a very prominent cherry. Hope that one performs because I could see myself really loving that one. Perfectly Wicked, Hocus Pocus. And the next one we're gonna talk about is this one right here, Very Merry Cranberry. Scent notes on it are lush red winter berries and snow-covered cedar. I've used a few of it. Kind of just a very sweet berry fragrance. I don't really get a lot of cedar out of this. And for the name Very Merry Cranberry, okay, I mean, cranberry, it's kind of on the sweeter side of cranberries. This really didn't do much for me at all. I would probably use this as a blender with maybe like a tree fragrance or something like that. Not gonna go back in my club. Was in my club to begin with and not a repurchase, and didn't really perform very well either. That's Very Merry Cranberry. And the next one is a new to me fragrance. It's the first time I've tried this one. It's Olaf Warm Hugs from a Disney collection, and cool mint, snow-covered woods, and warm vanilla. I actually prefer frosted vanilla over this, which frosted vanilla, I've talked about that one on this channel before. It's currently in one of my clubs, so I don't feel like I need this one. Probably wouldn't repurchase it. I haven't used it yet, so who knows? Maybe it could just really, really surprise me once I start to melt it. But it's so similar, just slight differences. I feel like this one's a little bit more minty, where frosted vanilla has more of a creamy vanilla to it. Just not as interesting. The woodiness in this is not as interesting as the woodiness in frosted vanilla either. Probably gonna end up being a bedroom melt, falling asleep to, something like that. But that's Olaf Warm Hugs. And the rest here that I have to talk about are club fragrances for me and are gonna stay in my club for an extended period of time. The only one, when I first placed this order, that I had smelled before I put all of these in my club and had them shipped out, the only one I had smelled before is this one right here, Fairy Tale Pumpkin. And you guys know how I feel about this one if you've been watching my Scentsy videos. Harvest Pumpkin, Midnight Black Raspberry, and Black Licorice. I feel like there's bakery in this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Yeah, feels like some sort of cake note in this, or maybe even a muffin. I love this one, Fairy Tale Pumpkin. That's a club fragrance for me and will be in my club for quite a while. I could see that one sticking around for the long haul. The next one I have here is the Nightmare Before Christmas, Halloween Town. And the notes on this one are cranberry, apple, and spiced cedarwood. Now this label right here on the front of I actually went to look for this fragrance to try to find it and buy it again because I have used several of it. And from what I've seen on the website, it looks like they changed the front label here on this one. It's not gonna show up as this anymore. It's gonna be a different picture, but it's gonna be called Halloween Town. So if you are looking for this fragrance on the website, it shows a different front label. This one reminds me of, what was it? Blackberry Spice, I think. Just substituting cranberry here in this one for that blackberry that was in that one. That one was kind of a very spiced cedary blackberry. Same thing happening here. This is a very spiced cedary cranberry and apple. Repurchase for me, that is Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas collection. Next one I have to talk about is this one right here, which seems to be a fan favorite. I was recommended this fragrance by several people, and it's Winterberry Apple Tea. The notes on this one are winter tea, cranberry, apple, and honey. And as you can see, I've used all of this one. I have another club shipment already being shipped to me right now. And this one is, another bar of this one is in that shipment. So I'll have more of this coming to me pretty soon. And what can I say about this one? I mean, that you don't already know, because I was recommended this fragrance by several people. Performs really well. I've kept it in the bedroom so far. Haven't really tried to move this one into the living room just yet. But yeah, it's a very kind of almost like a spiced apple cider. Maybe even a little bit of that cranberry too, like a spiced cranberry apple cider. I don't get dominant tea here. If you told me this was a tea fragrance and I just kind of smelt it in my room, I'd go, okay, yeah, I could see that. But I would never think dominant tea. I would never really think that initially when I would smell it. I would just kind of think like a lightly spiced apple cider, cranberry apple cider. But yeah, one of my favorites so far from Scentsy, that's Winterberry Apple Tea. And the next one I have is probably my favorite tree fragrance that I've smelt so far with Scentsy. It's this one from Disney. It's a Season of Magic. And I think this is currently out of stock. I think the only way you can purchase it is if you put it in a club right now. I don't know. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's the way I ended up getting it back when I first put it in my club, and that was probably a good month ago. And even since that time, it's come back in stock and gone out of stock. So I think the only way to purchase this one right now is to put it in a club. There might be other avenues that you could go about, but scent notes on this one are sugar crystals, frosty icicles, sweet pine, and wild berries. Oh, and this is a really nice kind of sugary, sweet berry pine fragrance. You get all of those notes, those sugar crystals. It is a very sweetened pine fragrance too. Feels like maybe like a sugared spruce in this one with that pine. It's a very tree forward fragrance, but it's very fruity. It's just very enjoyable, very sweet, performs really well. My favorite tree scent so far from Scentsy. And I just did a video recently from the bathing garden where I had probably like 8 or 10 tree scents in there, at least that many that I would probably choose over everything else that I've smelled so far from Scentsy as far as tree fragrances go, except this one right here. So you know it's really special if I would include that with a lot of those bathing garden fragrances. That's Season of Magic. The next one I have is kind of on the verge of coming out of my club. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with it. Seems to be a light performer so far on the times that I've used it. Have another bar coming to me, so I'm gonna try it again and see if it works out. It's Be Merry, and the notes on this one are pine boughs, holly leaf, and cassis. It's such a good fragrance, such a great tree scent. Very reminiscent of Homeworks Mistletoe Magic. So has a little bit of a tartness to the tree fragrance. Very, very similar. Just this one didn't perform well for me at all. I think I used it in 2 warmers at once at one point, and it didn't really do very much. I'm gonna have to go with all 3 warmers on this one and see if I could get something out of it. I don't mind using an entire bar all at once. I've had to do that several times with some of these, just to kind of get some sort of throw from them. I don't mind that. I know a lot of people consider them too pricey to do that. I can kind of see as I'm going along with Scentsy that my club-worthy fragrances are gonna be few and far between, especially when I compare to how many I've bought so far. And I've purchased upwards of maybe 40 scents so far, just in the few hauls that I've placed with Scentsy. And I've narrowed that down to around 10 club fragrances when I kind of average that out between both clubs that I have going. So that's exactly what I'm gonna try with Be Merry. Load it up in all 3 warmers in a bedroom each time I use it and use it that way. Have multiple bars of it shipped in each club, even go that route. It's such a great fragrance and I love my tree fragrances. I'd be willing to do that with it. Season of Magic as well. I would probably do the same thing with that one, even though Season of Magic performs better than Be Merry does. At least that's been my experience so far with those 2 fragrances. Season of Magic performs a little bit better than Be Merry, but they're both club worthy. They're both great tree fragrances. So I have not taken Be Merry out of my club just yet. It's kind of hanging by a thread. We'll see what happens going forward. The last one I have to talk about, another club fragrance, is this one right here, Caramel Chestnut. I've used all of this one. Notes on this one are silky caramel, vanilla, and warm chestnut. This one actually floored me when I first tried this one, when I first received it. It's definitely that woodsy chestnut as far as the dominant fragrance note. And there is a little bit of a sweetness to it. I wouldn't even really call this a caramel heavy fragrance at all. It's almost like the vanilla kind of plays a little bit more of a role than the caramel even. It's not a real sweet fragrance. Kind of like that with that warm, cozy, kind of outdoorsy chestnut, that nutty chestnut. Such a great one. Caramel Chestnut, club fragrance for me, gonna stay in the club for quite a while. I have one more that I don't know where I put my bar. I was gonna include it in this haul, but that is Maraschino Sugar Cookie. That's all the rage right now. I feel like that one, I don't have it with me, but I feel like that one is a little bit more of a spring fragrance for me. A delicious gourmand sugar cookie, kind of like an almondy cherry fragrance mixed with a really sugary sweet sugar cookie. A little bit out of season for me right now, but that one is in one of my clubs and I'll probably talk about that one more during the spring months. It is one of my favorites. I just have no idea where I put that bar and I didn't want to get up and look for it during the middle of filming this video. So there you guys have it. That's my first Scentsy Club haul on this channel. I've got another Scentsy haul coming up here pretty soon. Probably have that in the next couple of days. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll talk to you soon.